Hello, family! One of the world's biggest fashion publications, InStyle magazine, has just released its list of the most iconic wedding looks of all time, and standing proudly among some of the biggest names in fashion and cultural history is none other than Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Think about that for a second. Not best royal wedding, not best celebrity wedding, not best bridal trends of the decade. We're talking about one of the most iconic wedding looks of all time. That's an incredibly high bar. When publications use the word iconic, they're talking about the designs that changed conversations, inspired generations of brides, influenced designers, and remained recognizable long after the wedding itself. They're talking about looks that transcend trends. And according to InStyle, Meghan's Givenchy wedding dress belongs in that conversation. That is no small achievement. Now, before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Meghan's wedding dress deserves its place among history's most iconic bridal looks? Let's get into it. When Prince Harry and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, married in May 2018, the entire world was watching. Millions tuned in across continents. Every detail became international news. The flowers, the music, the guests, the ceremony, and naturally, the dress. There was enormous anticipation because nobody knew what Meghan would choose. Would she embrace elaborate royal tradition? Would she go full Hollywood glamour? Would she wear layers of lace and extravagant embellishments? Instead, Meghan surprised almost everyone. She stepped out wearing an elegant, minimalist Givenchy gown designed by Claire White Keller. The design was striking because of what it didn't do. It didn't rely on excessive decoration. It didn't overwhelm with glitter. It wasn't trying to scream for attention. Its beauty came from clean tailoring, perfect proportions, elegant construction, and timeless simplicity. Fashion critics often point out that true luxury isn't always about adding more. Sometimes it's about knowing exactly what to leave out. That philosophy defined Meghan's wedding dress. It wasn't competing with her, it complemented her. And that restraint is precisely why so many designers and fashion writers continue discussing it years later. Another remarkable feature was the veil. It wasn't simply a veil, it was a statement. The incredibly long silk tulle veil featured floral embroidery representing every Commonwealth country at the time. That detail transformed the piece into something deeply symbolic. Whether someone follows the royal family or not, it's hard to deny the amount of craftsmanship involved. Every flower carried meaning. Every stitch represented extraordinary attention to detail. Fashion isn't only about appearance. Sometimes it's storytelling through design. That veil told a story. Fast forward several years. Fashion changes constantly. Every season introduces new trends. Designers reinvent silhouettes. Social media moves at lightning speed. Yet Meghan's wedding dress keeps appearing on lists of the greatest bridal looks ever created. That consistency matters, because truly iconic fashion survives changing trends. Nobody has to remind people what Audrey Hepburn wore. Nobody forgets Grace Kelly's wedding gown. Princess Diana's dress still inspires documentaries and exhibitions decades later. And now, Meghan's gown continues appearing alongside those names in conversations about bridal history. That's significant. One thing that stands out about the InStyle feature is the company Meghan keeps. This isn't a random collection. It's a gallery of women whose wedding looks became part of fashion history. Different decades, different styles, different personalities. Yet each look represented a cultural moment. Being included in that group isn't about popularity contests. It's recognition that a particular fashion moment left a lasting mark. That's exactly what iconic means. It's interesting because critics often argued that Meghan's dress was too simple. Funny how fashion history works. Sometimes the designs criticized initially become classics. Minimalism has a habit of aging remarkably well. Fashion often rewards confidence. Choosing simplicity when everyone expects extravagance can actually become the boldest decision of all. Years later, many brides continue choosing sleek silhouettes inspired by that same aesthetic. That's influence. One thing that's impossible to ignore is Meghan's wider impact on fashion. Long before this latest recognition, retailers regularly reported items selling out after she wore them. The phenomenon became known as the Meghan effect. A handbag sells out. Shoes disappear. A coat becomes impossible to find. Jewelry experiences waiting lists. Countless brands experienced massive exposure after Meghan wore their pieces. Whether someone admired her style or not, the commercial impact was undeniable. Fashion businesses pay attention to influence, and Meghan consistently generated it. Another reason this recognition resonates is because it focuses purely on fashion. No palace intrigue, no tabloid drama, no anonymous sources, no speculative headlines, just design, craftsmanship, elegance, cultural influence. It's refreshing to see a conversation centered on creativity rather than controversy. Sometimes the clothes can simply be appreciated as clothes. An astonishing concept in the modern media ecosystem, where everything apparently needs 3 anonymous insiders and a dramatic headline. The longevity of Meghan's bridal look also says something about timeless design. Fashion experts often distinguish between trendy and timeless. Trendy pieces dominate for a season. Timeless pieces endure. A timeless dress can be photographed 20 years later and still feel contemporary. That's one reason bridal designers continue studying minimalist gowns. They don't become dated as easily. Meghan's dress fits comfortably within that tradition. Something else worth remembering is that fashion is subjective. No single dress will appeal to everyone. That's perfectly normal. One person loves lace, another prefers satin. One likes dramatic trains, another prefers clean lines. There is room for different tastes. But recognition from major fashion publications isn't determined by internet comment sections. Editors evaluate cultural impact, craftsmanship, influence, and historical significance. Those are different standards. The internet often creates the illusion that loud criticism represents majority opinion. Sometimes it doesn't. Social media amplifies extremes. Meanwhile, fashion institutions quietly continue evaluating work through professional lenses. That difference becomes obvious whenever major magazines publish retrospective lists. Years pass, emotions cool. What remains? Influence, innovation, enduring relevance. That's what history remembers. Perhaps that's why Meghan continues appearing in these conversations. Her wedding wasn't just another celebrity event. It became part of a global cultural moment. The images traveled everywhere. Millions watched live. Countless magazines analyzed every detail. Bridal designers discussed the construction. Fashion schools referenced the design. That's the kind of footprint iconic moments leave behind. Another fascinating aspect is how the dress reflected Meghan herself. It balanced modernity with tradition, Hollywood with royalty, contemporary elegance with historical symbolism. That balancing act wasn't easy, yet the finished result felt authentic. Rather than disappearing beneath layers of ornamentation, Meghan herself remained the focal point. The dress framed her instead of overshadowing her. Great design often works that way. Years later, the discussion continues, not because people are forced to talk about it, because they choose to. Every new retrospective, every fashion anniversary, every list celebrating memorable bridal style, somehow Meghan's gown keeps making the cut. That isn't an accident. It's consistency earned over time. In the end, history has a curious way of sorting through the noise. Daily headlines fade, internet arguments disappear, comment sections move on to the next outrage, as they always do. The outrage industry has the attention span of a squirrel after 3 espressos. But cultural moments that genuinely resonate tend to stick around. Meghan's wedding look has done exactly that. Whether someone personally prefers ornate lace, dramatic ball gowns, or minimalist tailoring, there's little doubt that her Givenchy wedding dress has secured a lasting place in the story of modern bridal fashion. And InStyle's latest feature is simply another acknowledgement of that legacy. It reminds us that fashion history isn't written by whoever shouts the loudest online. It's shaped over time by influence, craftsmanship, and the designs people continue to remember years later. So while trends come and go and headlines rise and fall, Meghan's wedding look continues to stand among the bridal styles that defined an era. That, more than anything else, is what being iconic is all about. Perhaps the biggest irony of all is that fashion has a remarkably long memory. It doesn't care about yesterday's social media arguments or the latest tabloid headline. Fashion remembers craftsmanship. It remembers innovation. It remembers moments that captured the imagination of millions. Years from now, very few people will remember who was complaining on television or what anonymous source was criticizing whom in a newspaper. But they will remember photographs that became part of history. They will remember a bride walking into St. George's Chapel in a sleek, elegant Givenchy gown with an extraordinary veil trailing behind her. That image has become part of the visual language of modern royal and celebrity weddings. It appears in documentaries, museum discussions, fashion retrospectives, coffee table books, and now yet another prestigious publication's list of history's most iconic bridal looks. That is how cultural legacy works. It quietly outlasts the daily cycle of outrage. Another fascinating point is how Meghan has inspired countless brides to rethink what a wedding dress can be. Before her wedding, many people believed a royal bride had to wear something heavily embellished, covered in intricate lace and overflowing with elaborate decoration. Meghan demonstrated that confidence and impeccable tailoring could make just as powerful a statement. Since then, bridal boutiques around the world have reported continued interest in minimalist gowns with structured silhouettes, bateau necklines, and clean architectural designs reminiscent of her look. Fashion designers often say that true style isn't about copying a dress stitch for stitch, it's about inspiring a direction, a feeling, and an aesthetic. In that sense, Meghan's influence extends far beyond one wedding day. She helped reinforce the idea that simplicity, when executed perfectly, can be every bit as breathtaking as extravagance. It's also worth appreciating the woman behind the dress. Meghan entered one of the most photographed moments of her life under extraordinary global attention. Every detail of her appearance was going to be analyzed from every conceivable angle, and yet, she chose a look that reflected her own taste instead of trying to satisfy everyone's expectations. That takes a certain level of confidence because history has shown that whenever someone dares to do something different, criticism usually arrives before appreciation. Time, however, has a funny habit of separating fleeting opinions from lasting achievements. As the years pass, people begin looking less at the noise surrounding an event and more at the event itself. Judging by recognition from respected fashion publications, Meghan's wedding look has comfortably passed that test. The conversation today is increasingly about the elegance of the design rather than the controversy that surrounded the headlines at the time. Ultimately, this latest recognition is another reminder that influence cannot simply be wished away. Despite years of relentless scrutiny, Meghan continues to appear on lists celebrating fashion, philanthropy, leadership, and cultural impact. Whether discussing magazine covers, best-selling books, charitable initiatives, business ventures, and now one of the greatest wedding looks in history, her name consistently enters conversations because her influence extends well beyond a single moment. People may disagree about personalities, preferences, or public life, but enduring cultural impact is measured over relevance over time. The fact that InStyle is still celebrating Meghan's wedding look years after the ceremony shows that it has become more than just a beautiful dress. It has become part of fashion history, standing alongside some of the most recognizable bridal images ever created. That is a legacy that no amount of criticism can erase, because history tends to remember the moments that left a genuine mark long after the headlines have faded. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.